are back with another week of Switch. Really fun and exciting week actually, because we get to kick off our Switch Madness for the second year. And so what does this look like? This looks like our leader rap battle kicking back off this week. It looks like our student 3v3 tournament kicking off at 6:30. And so Switch group leaders, I'll give you all the information that you need to know in a second, but let's talk about our calendar. We will have Switch Madness happening for 3 weeks. On the 5th and the 12th, we'll be leading up to the finals happening on the 19th before we go ahead and break for spring break. And so that's what the month of March is looking like. Let's go ahead and jump into Switch group leaders. Switch group leaders, I want to take us back to the basics for a moment. And so if you were here with us last year, you heard us talk about the 3 C's: capitalize, collaborate, and care. So let's start with last week. Last week we gave you guys the opportunity to talk for 5 minutes in the experience about healthy rhythms. And at least the groups that I sat in, I know that Q sat in some too, but the groups that I sat in, we gave each student an opportunity to talk about which one they want to focus on, given we are in the focus phase. And then some of them even talked about why they want to focus on it. And so I know that some of you guys took that back into group later. You capitalized on that. But let's go ahead and capitalize on what students want to focus on. And then, two, are we capitalizing on the stories, on what we get to know about their life? Are we capitalizing on being able to communicate with parents, the momentum that we see, the vulnerability that we see in group, the student leaders that we've identified in group? Let's go ahead and capitalize on what your group is, assess that with your co-leader, and then figure out how to use that best to serve the students really well. The second one is collaborate. Please collaborate with your co-leader. Giving yourself a plan actually allows you to serve students really well, even if you end up veering from that plan. So make sure that you are watching these videos, that you're up to date with the resources, and that you talk to your co-leader before Wednesday to come up with a plan. That way there's no confusion and you guys can execute something really well for the students. And then two, some of you have really great student leaders in group. And so you can go ahead and capitalize on their gifts, on their strong leadership, and start having them lead group. I know some of you guys do it already, but go ahead and send them the message guide and the notes for the week, and then they can go ahead and plan the conversation that they want to have with their peers. And so, collaborate. The third being care. Are we connected to the stories of our students, the stories of their families? Are we reaching it out like throughout the week? Are we following up on a prayer request, showing up randomly like we talk about? What does that look like for your investment into the students' lives? How are you caring for them well? How are you caring for their parents and their families as they walk into this building? And so we want to make sure that we care really well. And something that allows us to do that is our binders. Our binders, they have the weekly attendance, they have follow-ups, you can write notes from the week before. There are so many things in that binder that allows you to not have to recall what happened all in your brain, have it all in there, but also so that you can focus on what's happening this week, but also allows you to stay up to date with everything so that you can execute a plan really well. So let's be utilizing those binders as best as we can in this season. And so with all of that, the last thing I have for you, Switch group leaders, is to show up to huddle at 6:15. Please show up to huddle at 6:15 this week. You will be hearing from Q before we jump into huddle at 6:25. We'll be reaching out to coaches and making sure everyone's there. That way we can be effective for the night. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into final thoughts. All right, final thoughts. We don't do an experience for students, but we do an experience with students. So what does this look like for Switch right now? This looks like bringing the gosh darn energy that you got, because what we know is that when we set the tone and the pace, students will naturally come alongside us and follow. And sometimes their energy is going to look more like hype and craziness and fun, but we also know their energy is going to look like devoted, like fully devoted followers of Christ. And so your energy can look like fun, it can look like excitement, but it can also look like preparation, to have some fire content in group. It can also look like coming to the front and worshiping your students. It can also look like being passionate about connecting with them in the pre-experience, because you know how much that matters to them and how well that sets you up for group. And so when we hop off this video, I want you to take a minute. And I want you to bring yourself back to your why. Why did you start serving in Switch? What stories are connected to that? Why do you still show up for the students in your group? What are their stories? If you need any motivation on bringing the energy and showing up even when it's hard, you should be going back to your why. And so I challenge you, when you hop off here, take a few minutes, few seconds to be thinking about those things and preparing yourself for this week. As we go into this week, just a reminder, show up to huddle at 6:15. You'll be hearing from Q before we jump into huddle at 6:25. Let's go ahead and in it how we always do, Switch Nation!